Remember, while we might be saying 4-1, done and dusted, end of the series, there's still some cricket to be played. 3 T20 internationals. Now, while it might be a different format, really you have to look at ODI and T20 cricket as the fact that there are a lot of common players. The nucleus of the teams is often the same, and I think from India's point of view, even though they'll have a few new players flying in, they'll still look at this as a preparation for World Cup 2019.
The only thing I would have done differently in this series, at start of game 4, if I had said, look, I'm not going to play Ravindra Jadeja. I've got the 2 wristies, I might play 1, I might play 2. I would have sent him back to play for Saurashtra in the Ranji Trophy final. Because it's been very heartening to see the importance attached to the Ranji Trophy this time. None of the Ranji Trophy players playing the knockouts were picked for India A. So that assigned a lot of importance, and that's wonderful to see. That's the only change. In the T20s, my eyes will be on one person primarily, and that's Rishabh Pant. Because he was not in this side. My eyes will be primarily on Rishabh Pant. There's the others. I'd like to see how Dinesh Karthik goes about it, because I think he's still a sort of marginal pick. So I'd be looking at those 2 more than I would at anybody else.
3 of them have flown in, as you said. They're going to be flying in, reaching just about 24 to 36 hours before the start of the first game. Sid Kaul, Krunal Pandya and Rishabh Pant.
So from this squad, if you just look at the fast bowlers, you've seen that Khalil Ahmed had been given opportunities, and the last match when it mattered, he was sitting out, and Siraj was also not being considered. So that something tells me that maybe they're still looking at that 4th seamer option for the World Cup. Siddharth Kaul might get couple of games. That's something which will be interesting to see how the management is thinking. I think we'll know in the first game itself. If Siddharth Kaul is playing, that means
they like him at the death.
He's back in the scheme of things.
They like him at the death. They like bowling Siddharth Kaul at the death. So maybe that's his role.
When Krunal Pandya first burst into the scene, and you've seen enough of him playing, they were touting him as a possibility to make it into India's 50-over squad. But he still quite hasn't knocked that door down.
I thought if Krunal Pandya had established himself as a bowler who could give you 7-8 overs every day in a one-day international, that the 2 brothers could have played 6 and 7. And Krunal is perfectly capable of batting 6. If the 2 brothers had played 6 and 7, then you could have had someone else at 8, and then you'd have had a really nice deep batting lineup.
Still leans more towards a batting all-rounder, Krunal?
He is still leaning towards batting all-rounder for sure. And in the squad which we've been discussing, or in the scheme of things, how the team management also has been going about, possibly a backup to Kedar Jadhav. So Ravindra Jadeja gets a go because purely as a bowling all-rounder. But when it comes to backup, because we've seen with Kedar Jadhav as well that he's been susceptible to injuries with his hamstring being tricky. So from the World Cup point of view, I think if you have to look at Krunal, then it will be on those lines is what the feeling goes.
I think it might be a little too late. I think that ship might have sailed, because Jadhav got runs. He got runs today. He got runs in an earlier game as well. He's consistently giving you 6-7 overs. He's doing everything asked. So I think Krunal Pandya, that ship might have sailed.
Also, from New Zealand's point of view, it's going to be a very, very important series, because they've gone down 4-1 in this ODI series, and from their point of view as well, they'll not just want to repair the damage of what's happened here, but they'll be also looking at filling in those slots.
Yes, sometimes when teams like New Zealand play teams like India in T20s, it's almost like an audition for an IPL contract. Yeah. But that's not going to happen now, because that's all done. Though Zahir Khan might look at it carefully. But there's a lot of new names in there. We've seen Scott Kuggeleijn play. We've seen a little bit of Tim Seifert comes in as the keeper. We don't know a lot about Blair Tickner and Daryl Mitchell.
We don't. Daryl Mitchell's we've seen. Blair Tickner very much a newcomer. Listening to Simon Dool on commentary talking about him, he was excited that he's actually made it into the squad. So perhaps not quite one of the contenders as such. But Scott Kuggeleijn won a match for them recently, partnership with Doug Bracewell against Sri Lanka, and that was where he established himself as a good, solid all-rounder.
There can't be 2 Kuggeleijns, right? Because there's a Chris Kuggeleijn who played for New Zealand.
I think it's his nephew.
Chris Kuggeleijn, correct. Because a name like Kuggeleijn, there can't be too many of those around. So, Arun Lal caught Chris Kuggeleijn, bowled Richard Hadley for the wicket. I remember that. I was calling it all those hundreds of years ago.
Yes. Of course, if we did show you the entire squad, but there are a couple of permutations, combinations in there. Some will be only available for the 3rd T20, which is, of course, Lockie Ferguson.
Yes.
For the first 2. and Blair Tickner for the third.
What New Zealand needs to do is go back to playing those bowlers or bowling all rounders rather than preferring batting all rounders. That's something which a lesson should be learned from the series which just went by, because you need bowlers to create that impact. And I think over dependence on utility cricketers, giving half of departments is at times cost you games. Like you are creating a scenario like today when there are 18 for 4, but you're still cautious of the fact that who's going to bowl your last overs, because you didn't have that out and out bowler who could give you that breakthrough in the middle overs when the partnership was building. So I think they need to move away from that thought process. So that's why the likes of Grandom, Santner, Bracewell, they need to categorize them in such a way where the balance is maintained with ball and bat.